control and transfer of animal control officers and responsibilities to the Mendocino County Sheriff's Department. Health and Human Services Agency, Carmel Angelo is the sponsor. Thank you, Carmel, and thank you for putting up with us all day and coming back this afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Pinches, members of the board. I'm Carmel Angelo, Director of the Health and Human Services Agency. I would like to quickly update you on our animal care and control services. The first part of the update has to do with the Fort Bragg shelter services. As you know, we put out a request for proposal for shelter services back in July, with proposals coming in August. We had one proposal that was acceptable. We spent a considerable amount of time in negotiations with a prospective contractor for the shelter services in Fort Bragg. Unfortunately, we were not able to reach an agreement. The good news is the shelter is staying open. We will be working as we have been with the shelter. There will be some accommodations made to match our budget, which is approximately $156,000 a year for that shelter. However, our number one concern is the care of the animals, and we expect that we will have no problems or no disruption in service with the shelter. The second part of the update has to do with the animal control officers, and the animal control officers will be transferring to the Sheriff's Department. This will happen sometime after February 8th. Animal control came to the Health and Human Services Agency in 2005. Before that, it was with agriculture. I think back in the 80s. At that time, there were approximately 8 animal control officers. When the agency, the Health and Human Services Agency, or Public Health actually, assumed animal control in 2005, at that time there were 4 animal control officers. Today we have 4 animal control officers. Those positions will be transferred to the Sheriff Department. We see this actually as a way to enhance our services in animal control. The Sheriff Department will be able to back up the control officers 24/7. The appropriations for the officers, along with the vehicles, any type of uniform costs, all those appropriations will be transferred to the Sheriff's Department. That is my report. Are there questions?
Questions from board members? Carrie?
The hearing board. The hearing board for animal
Appeals?
control, yes. Appeals. Who will take care of that? I mean, which agency will it function under? Will it be your agency or that of the sheriff?
Well, at this point in time, we are still working on the details of the transition. My expectation is that that may still remain in the agency.
And just for your history, it was its own entity. It was removed from Department of Agriculture, I believe, in the mid-'80s, early '80s. John,
and it was a standalone department at that time?
And it was a standalone department for quite some time, yes. And
Thank you for that.
Actually, the animal control office was also, it was the countywide trapper program too, which was, and also the animal
with
control.
egg.
Yes. Yes.
One of the issues with the control officers, of course, is recruitment and retention. We expect to see improvement with recruitment and retention with the transfer to the Sheriff's Department, as there will be a career ladder that we don't currently have within public health.
Actually, it was during the 70s, it was a whole 100% county program with the trappers and the animal control. Then in the mid-'80s, the federal government got involved, and actually they took over most of the responsibility of the trapping program, and that was left in the ag, which still controls the ag department under the ag commissioner, and then since then it was the animal control, and then just here a few years ago it was put into the Health and Human Services Agency. Tom?
Yes, thank you. Tom Mitchell, Chief Executive Officer representing the Sheriff, who again is in post-training. We did have a conversation as I met with them over the lunch hour. The Sheriff is anxiously looking forward to this transfer. I wanted the board to know, and Tom did also, that we currently have one officer in place for the entire county. We have another officer who has gone through the appropriate background, and the sheriff and the HSA agency will make a joint decision about hiring that. And then we'll still have 2 vacant positions that we're recruiting for. There'll be a number of transitional items we'll be doing, and we'll formally notify the board when this actual transfer happens, but there's some training that has to go on. The sheriff is going to put it into his command structure as part of the patrol. We think we'll be able to back up those officers. They'll talk on a common frequency, and we think this will generate some potential initial savings. And we'll also, as Carmel stated, we'll give a career ladder for those people. These are individuals that do carry weapons, so we think it's appropriate that they be supervised by a sheriff's organization. We do potentially have some issues that we need to also talk to with our union partners about, because I believe these employees are presently SEIU employees.
That's right. The positions are.
There are SEIU employees in the sheriff's department, but we're just sensitive to the fact that whenever we make a change, we need to discuss with our union groups any concerns that they have. Those will occur before the formal transfer is also made.
Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Angelos, to this issue of that we only currently have 1 officer working in the county, and we have 2 vacant positions, 1 officer on leave. What is the process, and what is the status of the recruitment for those 2 vacant positions, and what is the interface with the sheriff's office and I guess HR department to do the hiring, and what are they doing to outreach to coastal residents to have at least one of those positions hired on in the coastal region, so that person will report directly to the Fort Bragg site and not have this time spent with commuting over the hill, and it's just not a good use of resources. So what is currently happening? What's the plan for that?
Okay. As Mr. Mitchell stated, we have 1 full-time permanent animal control officer currently. We have 2 officers that are going through the hiring process, and we were looking at hiring, which would have filled 3 of the positions. We have discussed the 4th animal control officer recruitment, focusing on a recruitment for someone from the coastal region and having that animal control officer stationed on the coast. Based on Sheriff Allman's plan with having the control officer stationed throughout the county, that is certainly congruent with what we had already planned. Regarding existing recruitment today, as Mr. Mitchell had stated, right now we're working on a transition, and so HHSA will not hire an animal control officer without working with the Sheriff Department right now in planning that those positions will be in the Sheriff Department. So I will be talking with Sheriff Allman about how we will proceed with the 4th officer. In light of the fact that we do have a hiring freeze, this is a case where these positions are critical, essential positions, and they do have a unique skill set. So we will be recruiting for an animal control officer. I think the greater issue has been recruitment and retention. Certainly it's difficult to find staff that live and work in the coastal region of this county. So we will outreach to the coastal region to try to find someone for that position. However, I do believe that with the transfer to the Sheriff Department and the fact that there will be a career ladder that there has not been in public health, we may have greater options with our recruitment. Does that answer your question, Supervisor Smith?
I think so.
Okay.
Thank you. Supervisor Colfax.
Just based on what I have before me here, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
It says that the days open at the Fort Bragg shelter will be reduced from 5 to 4 days a week. Now, at the same time, it says that we will be operating with 2 full-time employees, and then we're talking about a couple of animal control officers. Does that mean one of those officers